Here's the 30-second lesson on what legends know. Never practice nunchucks in a crowded room. Never eat chole before a road trip. Always take your shirt off before you iron it. Don't take a call near a swimming pool. And don't forget, saving is not investing. Legends don't just save, they invest in mutual funds. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Everybody who matters anywhere in our system is now trying to do something about the death by drowning of 3 young people in the basement of the library or the basement library of Frau's IAS Study Circle in Old Rajendra Nagar, Western Delhi's UPSC coaching hub. The Delhi High Court has moved in. They've handed over the investigation to the CBI, while the Delhi government has sealed a whole bunch of such basements at multiple other coaching centers. Nobody asked how come they were functioning so far. Nevertheless, they've now sealed them, and they've announced that they will pass a new law regulating such businesses. Some owners and senior management members of these organizations have also been arrested. And to cap the absurdity, the Delhi police have made world headlines by arresting the owner and driver of an SUV that merely happened to drive across the flooded street and apparently pushed water into the basement to flood it. In fact, you might like to see our 50-word edit on this, which says, "What will come next? Will you now arrest the water?" Some of the owners of these coaching centers and superstar teachers, I'm putting teachers in quotes, not superstar. You know why? Because superstar is a reality. Teachers, I am not so sure if they are really teachers. They are appearing on selected chosen media platforms, particularly those where they've had mutually beneficial commercial relationships, to express fake sympathy with the victims, but also mostly for self-exculpation. Nobody is particularly pushed on the key question. If this is how much you charge, or you earn this much fame on Instagram from the reels you make, how come you are still running classes in these unsafe, unhygienic, slum-like conditions? Or how is it that while they charge their students the top dollar on the promise that they can game a system with a failure rate of about 99.9%, they do not spend on providing at least some basic facilities and safety? This in our ridiculous system where it isn't legal to make profit from education. In fact, as recently as 2022, the Supreme Court said you cannot make profit from education. You run universities, colleges, schools, but you pretend not to make any profits. That is nonsense. It's also hypocrisy. It's also a cruel reality. In this system, in this situation where education cannot make profit, the coaching businesses have no such issue. Some might be listed on stock markets, or at least may have taken money, may have been valued by private equity, and or are headed to stock markets or to private equity. How broken does our governance have to be, and how incredibly touching our hypocrisy that you can't make profit from giving young Indians education, but can earn thousands of crores giving them, the same graduates, the same tuitions, the same education, similar curriculum, the same tuition. One way of figuring out how big the coaching business is and how fast it's growing is just to look at the GST the center has been collecting from them. As the figures in a fine story by Mridalini Dhyani on The Print shows, I'm sharing a link with you. In 2019-20, the GST collected at the rate of 18% was 2,240 crores. Then see how it rises. The graphic is there. See how it rises year upon year upon year upon year. 5 years later, it has already gone up more than 150% to 5,517 crores. It is estimated, given the rate of growth now, it is estimated that it will go up to about 15,000 crores by 2029. Remember, GST collections of the central government will go up to 15,000 crores by 2029. You can imagine what the size of the business will be, because this GST will only be 18% of that business. The other way to understand the size and power of the business is simply to look at the front pages of your big daily newspapers across the country. These coaching centers have marketing budgets to buy acres and acres of that expensive real estate or newsprint, advertising not just successful students, but also their teachers. In fact, I find them sometimes that they spend more money buying that space than our state governments. Many of our state governments spend a lot of money promoting themselves, but these coaching organizations spend more than that, and definitely there will be at least a half dozen who are spending more than Baba Ramdev on these front page advertisements. Each of these teachers in their ads is painted as a star, and each one's name is suffixed with a sir, so and so sir. I don't want to use even any notional names, but say so and so, say Shekhar Gupta sir, right? Let me put myself in front like that. So if I were a teacher, my name will not be mentioned as Shekhar Gupta, it will be Shekhar Gupta sir, so and so sir, so and so sir. Or in the rare case of a woman teacher, which is about 1 in 50 by my cursory count, ma'am. I suppose it's an early blooding of our future rulers in the Saring or Ji Huzuri culture. It is also the biggest individual brand building exercise in India outside the movie business, because the superstardom of founders and teachers is as essential, as critical to the success of their coaching businesses as is that of the film stars to the movie business. Now, teachers were usually self-effacing. Remember your teachers from school, college, university, anywhere? Teachers are normally generous, self-effacing, large-hearted people dispensing wisdom and knowledge to pupils with humility and generally reveling in their pupils' success. Mera student itna aage pahunch gaya, right? So they let that success rub off on them, and that is the satisfaction they drew. That's why the coaching business is a blot on the profession of teaching, and its superstar phenomenon is two things. One, it's an insult to real, anonymous, modestly paid, large-hearted teachers. And second, it's a reminder to us of how broken our regular education system is, that is particularly the public education system. Although most of us are products of the same broken education system, but maybe some of us got lucky. If the system wasn't in such a shambles, why would literally lakhs of young people hang around in these cities for coaching, living in these filthy dormitories, right? Living suboptimal lives. Of course, many of those selected in this process, we are talking about those advertisements, many of them will lend their faces to the same advertisements. Some will be paid for it and thereby begin their hallowed careers with a kind of bribe. It may not yet be illegal before they join their service, but definitely it's an immoral gratification and thereby a bribe. Check out Vidhu Vinod Chopra's 12th fail, for example. The main reason the coaching business has already crossed $3.5 billion in size and booming, how do I get to that number? I'm not exaggerating. Take GST of rupees 5,517 crores this year as base, this is at 18%, and do your multiplication, it gives you the business size of nearly 30,000 crores already. And from there, it's booming. The reason it's happening is that our education system is broken. In many ways, this is the biggest instance or the worst instance of our broken window economic system in our governance besides our electricity supplies. Let me try and explain. The idea of broken window economics or fallacy is credited to a 19th century French economist and parliamentarian Frederick Bastiat. In 1850, he wrote a famous paper or essay in French, so don't ask me to pronounce the title in French, but translated into English, the title was That Which We See and That We Do Not See. He used an imaginary shopkeeper, say James Goodfellow, as an example. Now, say James Goodfellow's son breaks the window in his shop, for which James Goodfellow has to hire a carpenter to fix it. So he has to pay the carpenter, right? The carpenter, the money that he gives the carpenter buys bread from that money. So the baker gets some money. The baker in turn goes and buys some wine. So the winemaker gets some money. And that's how the economy goes on. So that is one economics. Bastiat said this wasn't a virtuous cycle. This was a broken window fallacy, because what's missed here is the opportunity cost. And what is the opportunity cost? That is the money that Mr. Goodfellow has paid to get his broken window fixed, because that is what started the spiral. In this case, at the end of this economics, Mr. Goodfellow has his shop and the window, and the people in the chain have their jobs. That is the carpenter, the baker, and the winemaker. At the same time, if the window wasn't broken, he could buy his son shoes and himself a book with the same money. That would be a virtuous cycle. And also, while he will have his shop with the window intact, his son will have his shoes. He will probably have a book or maybe a bottle of wine as well. That is a virtuous cycle, a true virtuous cycle. Now see how this plays out in our lives. We give subsidies for power, our grids are broken, our utility companies are broke, producers aren't getting paid, and banks who lend them money are struggling. Everybody is broke in the electricity business while the country has surplus power that nobody can buy because nobody can afford to buy it. Our power is unreliable, goes off too often, and the voltage fluctuates, burning up our gadgets. So we invest in generators, inverters, voltage stabilizers. If you have a lot of gadgets, a servo voltage stabilizer costs more money. We buy enormous amounts of diesel and burn it to pollute the air. And we are doing it all because our electricity system is broken. This worsens our air quality because we are burning diesel. This worsens our air quality, which is already polluted because we burn our garbage. The combination of free power and water leads to stubble burning and so on. The solution is to buy air purifiers for our homes. At least we are safe, our lungs are safe in our homes. Air purifiers, by the way, cost more than air conditioners. Air conditioners, at least you can justify because weather tends to get so hot in India. All of the rest, however, generators, stabilizers, inverters, air purifiers, these make up our massive broken window economics on electricity. Education is no different from it. The coaching business is only its worst manifestation. Nobody wants to learn from the Chinese, and in most cases, we probably should not. Just see, however, how Xi Jinping addressed the same problem in China in 2021. He demolished his entire tuition and coaching industry overnight. In fact, later he made coaching, even one-to-one coaching, illegal on the threat of criminal punishment. Reason given was it was straining the finances of families, and Chinese, as you know, want to help their families control their expenses, so it does not become a disincentive on producing more babies. The Chinese need more babies. So it was straining the family's finances, causing inequality, so the family that had more money could give their children better odds at cracking the system. It was wasting families' time and taking young people away from more fun things. Everything, including coaching centers for China's famed UPSC equivalent, Gaokao, was banned. In fact, that has also led to some illegal underground activity, underground coaching, and I will share on that a wonderful article that the BBC carried. But it's underground, he's banned it. It can only be a tiny fraction of what was happening earlier. There was to be no tutoring for profit, no IPO listings, no share sales, complete limits on online learning, including timings, no online teaching after 9 p.m., no mergers, acquisitions, no franchises, no foreign collaborations, end of story. In fact, he even banned any tuition or education for children under 6. This at a time when we had the monstrosity in our country of our TV channels running ads one after the other, serial ads, and particularly in the COVID season of a company that was promising to teach coding to children of that age. I think it was called White Hat Junior. I don't know if that company exists, but teaching 6, 7, 8-year-olds coding at that age, that's the age where children should be playing with soil or plants or insects or just playing with fellow children, right? But we were embracing that culture exactly at the time when Xi Jinping was destroying it. Overnight in China, Chinese edutech companies lost more than $1 trillion on the stock markets. In fact, we featured this in an episode of Cut the Clutter, of which I am sharing a link with you. Do check it out with the description. This was way more than the damage in the 2008 global financial meltdown. Jack Ma apart, he was dismantled differently and for different reasons. 3 of the top Chinese billionaires, Larry Chen, Michael Yu, and Chang Bangshin, they all lost between 50 and 90% of their wealth, all from this edtech meltdown, which was mandated by the state. Going as far as Xi Jinping did may look like going too far. But if you list the problems he was addressing, it's the same list in India. So something must be done. This coaching, tuition, profiteering model built on the back of a broken education system is a scandal and an abomination, and it must go.